Well, let's get the federal government's reaction to Ontario's climate plan unveiled today. Catheine McKenna is Canada's Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being here. Minister Phillips says the plan he unveiled today will meet your Paris climate targets that the federal government agreed to. And so he believes it should meet with your approval because he's doing what the federal government promised to do, and Ontario is willing to do its part. So does it meet with your approval?
Look, I mean, first of all, the plan is really light on details, so it's hard to really understand what the plan does. But it still seems to have an underlying principle that it should be free to pollute. And we know when it's free to pollute, there's more pollution. I mean, the other thing...
Why do you say that? Why do you say it has it says it's free to pollute?
Well, because they've said they don't want to put a price on pollution. And we know that if this is just by the evidence...
But they will. They have a plan. They'll penalize emitters. That they've got a fund that allows emitters to tap into that fund to try and cut emissions.
It seems that what they're doing is taking taxpayer money to pay polluters not to pollute, whereas our approach is, you know, it shouldn't be free to pollute, and we'll give more money back to consumers, to taxpayers. But look, I mean, the problem with the plan overall is at a time where we need to be more ambitious on climate action. We have a UN report that says we have a generation to act. They're being much less ambitious, that they're backtracking on the commitments that Ontario had made, and as a result, they're going to increase pollution by the amount of pollution that was reduced when Ontario got rid of the coal-fired plants. That, you know, we have an opportunity to do right by the environment, to do right by the economy. They're also missing out on the huge economic opportunity that when you actually take action on climate change in a smart way, by putting a price on pollution, you create the incentive for innovation and for people to save money. They cut programs across the board for schools, universities, hospitals. As a result, you know, they can't reduce their emissions, be more energy efficient, and they also got rid of their body, the Commissioner of Environment, that was intended to make sure that they actually take action.
You say that they're backtracking on the targets set by Kathleen Wynne's government, Liberal government in Ontario. Targets, they said today that the Liberals set higher targets than they needed to set to help the federal government meet their Paris climate targets, and they weren't meeting those higher targets they set anyway. They made the point today Ontario is at 22% below 2005 levels, so they're only trying to figure out the next 8% to get to the 30% from 2005 levels by 2030. So I guess the point they were making today is we're doing what we can do in this province, and we're doing it without a carbon tax, and we're going to meet the targets that you set as a federal government. Forget what Kathleen Wynne said, we'll do more. Ontario says it's going to do what you asked them to do and not more than that, and they're going to do it their way. How do you know they won't get to the levels you set?
Well, so I mean, the example they've used is Australia. As I say, Australia is a model that shows the exact opposite. Australia had a price on pollution, their emissions went down. They had a fund for polluters, and their emissions went up. That we know that we have countries, almost 50% of the countries in the world have a price on pollution. China just introduced a price on pollution. That you look at the example of British Columbia, it has a price on pollution. It's had it for a decade. It's reduced its emissions, and it has the fastest growing clean tech sector. California and Quebec, both examples of how you can be smart about it, how putting a price on pollution is the cheapest way to reduce emissions. We need to be serious about climate action. We have to be more ambitious, not less. We need to be working with cities and schools and provinces and all Ontarians to help them reduce emissions and save money. They cut all these programs.
But you say that a carbon tax is the only logical and reasonable way to achieve the targets. Other provinces, including Ontario, say it's not true. And I guess what I'm saying is, look at what's in the plan that they've unveiled today and point. What categorically in the plan can you say will allow them to not achieve these targets? How do you know for sure this doesn't?
Well, I mean, as I say, it's extremely light on detail. So, you know, we need to see a lot more detail. There's some possibility it'll come out later in 2019. We don't know. They had someone who would look at the plan, which was the Commissioner for Environment. They got rid of that position. But also, they're increasing the emissions. We all sat down that that the provinces sat down, we spent a year negotiating how we were going to move forward as a country to reduce emissions. What they've done is they've been much less ambitious
than the previous Liberal government was in Ontario.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the previous Liberal government, they phased out coal. And what happened? They actually reduced asthma. They reduced the number of smog days from 53 to 0. They grew the economy. So there's an opportunity to work together. And I'm heading next week to the COP, the climate negotiations in Poland. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to have to be clear there that we need to do more. It's not about doing less, which is what the Ontario government is doing. It is doing less, and it's going to cost more.
Okay, 2 quick questions before I let you go. Anything you see in this that says you won't impose a backstop on Ontario?
No, I mean, we've been clear that we need to have
This doesn't cut it, as far as you're concerned.
We need to have a price on pollution. It can't be free to pollute. But remember, we're going to give more money to Ontarians. So if you're a family of 4, a family of 4 will get over $300 in their pockets, more than they will pay, which is good. We want to make life affordable while we want to be absolutely serious about tackling climate change.
Mr. Phillips says, I gather you're going to be in Toronto at some point next week. He's extended an invitation to you, says, I want you to come and meet him, and maybe you'll have a chance to convince you of the value of this plan. You interested in doing that?
Of course. I sit down with with provinces and territories all the time. Last week we had a meeting to bring provinces and territories on board with our plan to have zero plastic waste. I want us to be ambitious. I want us to work together. I don't want us to be in court. That it's unfortunately that conservative politicians, want to be, they want to take people to court. They want to cut, opportunities to work with cities, schools, provinces. They want to waste taxpayers' money as opposed to be serious about climate action. We have the opportunity to show the world.
But they would flip that and say they don't have to go to court with you if you just don't impose a carbon tax.
But we have given them an opportunity to design a system that meets our standard. We have said, we want to work together, but unfortunately that's not the approach was taken. Okay. And then at the federal level, there's no conservative climate plan. That it's been, I think over 200 and something days since Andrew Scheer said that they would have a
Apparently
climate
it's still
plan.
Coming.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing that climate plan.
Catheine McKenna, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.